Hello and welcome everyone on this official platform of Legacy IAS Academy. What if I told you that the balance of power in Indo-Pacific region is quietly shifting, not with missiles or warships, but with meetings, handshakes, as well as high-speed trains. Ji haan. So while the world eyes on the fixed है ना on the global tensions like Russia, so everyone is watching the tensions like between Russia, Ukraine, Taiwan, South China Sea, but something extraordinary is happening between India and Japan that could actually reshape the entire Indo-Pacific game board. So as you can see here, the headlines in the news: does India's engagement with Japan a sign of shift in Indo-Pacific policy? So today we are going to discuss this issue. See, military chiefs are flying, prime ministers, they are preparing for their visits, and beneath the radar of the mainstream headlines, India may be subtly redefining its Indo-Pacific strategy, not through big Quad summit, but through targeted bilateral alliances. Ji haan. So from the Tokyo meetings of India's defense chief as well as to Prime Minister Modi's upcoming visit, every move is calculated in Indo-Pacific strategy, as well as every handshake which is going on the diplomatic level, it has something strategic here. Now, the big question here is India quietly shifting from Quad multilateralism to a bold new Japan first axis? And why now? What's pushing India closer to Tokyo and slightly away from Washington? So stay tuned, because by the end of this video, you will understand the real story behind the headlines and why what's happening between India and Japan, it could reshape the geopolitics from the Himalayas to the Pacific Rim. So as you can see here, now this region is becoming very important. Now India is also creating the strategic alliances with Japan. So the main question with the context of this news here is, if you go through the news, that is India shifting its Indo-Pacific policy from the Quad, which is a 4-nation group strategy, to a more strong direct partnerships like the one with Japan. So what is happening now that we need to understand? As you can see here, the context. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he is going to visit Japan later this month, and the visit follows a series of high-level military exchanges between India as well as Japan. So this is the most important context here. Now, before this, right now, recently several military visits happened. So as you can see here, recent military visits. अब ये recent military visits कौन-कौन सी थी? So let's try to understand. Like, for example, General Anil Chauhan, who is India's Chief of Defense Staff, CDS, he visited Tokyo, and he also held talks with General Yoshide. General Yoshide, he is the Chief of Staff Japan Self-Defense Forces, that is called as JSDF. है ना? JSDF. So this happened recently. Now, after this, second important thing, Admiral Dinesh K. Tripathi, है ना? Admiral Dinesh K. Tripathi, who is India's Navy Chief, he also went on a 4-day official visit to Japan. And what was their aim? Their aim was to boost the maritime as well as, you will see, strategic cooperation here. Now, with respect to these visits, what else is being discussed? So now try to understand. Now the Prime Minister Modi, he is going to visit Tokyo. So during Prime Minister Modi's visit, talks will go beyond the defense partnership. That means the talks will be held at strategic level. Now focus किस पे होगा? Focus will be on economic ties. जी हाँ, focus will be on economic ties, especially the Mumbai Ahmedabad high speed rail project. As you can see here, Mumbai Ahmedabad high speed rail project, which is also considered as India's first bullet train project, which is supported by Japan. Now, with respect to this, what is India's Indo-Pacific strategy now? So, let's try to understand India's Indo-Pacific strategy. First of all, India is still a part of Quad. Quad means 4 countries are there: India, Japan, Australia, and United States of America. Now, according to Ministry of External Affairs, अब February 2025 में Ministry of External Affairs ने क्या कहा? That India supports free, open, inclusive. अब ये याद रखिएगा, that India supports free, open, inclusive, and resilient Indo-Pacific region. That means the Quad is meant to complement India's bilateral relation, not to replace them. Okay. Now, in this situation, what about United States of America? So let's try to understand what about US then. Now, after Trump, India and US ties currently are under strain. Why? Recently अभी न्यूज में आया था that US President Donald Trump, he has imposed 25% of tariffs. As you can see here, Donald Trump has imposed 25% of tariffs on Indian goods, and he also penalized India for trading with Russia. US क्या चाहता है? That India should not buy oil from Russia. Okay, so this shows a more aggressive US trade policy under the Trump regime, which pushing India to look for other strong partners. Okay, this is the main reason. On the other hand, Japan's changing role, as you can see here, Japan's changing role. Now, try to understand that Japan currently now moving away from its second, or you can say post Second World War, pacifist defense policy. Okay, so after Second World War, Japan has adopted pacifist defense policy, and the defense of Japan was managed by United States of America. Okay, now during the time period of Trump, US is following the protectionist policy. That means US is all about American first now, है ना? So Japan क्या चाहता है? Now Japan wants stronger defense ties in the Indo-Pacific region. Why? Because Japan and India has common enemy, that is China. So to counter China in Indo-Pacific region. Now in this scenario, in this policy, India actually fits well as a natural as well as strategic partner. Now, what will be India's smart strategy here? So as you can see here, India's smart strategy. तो अब यहां पर इंडिया की स्मार्ट स्ट्रेटजी क्या होगी कि इंडिया इज नॉट क्विटिंग द क्वाड, बट it is adding more weight to bilateral ties like with Japan. So India is adding more weight to bilateral ties like with Japan. Now the question here is why? Question here is why. So let me tell you, because if you see bilateral deals, so what bilateral deals offer? So try to understand that these bilateral deals offer, first of all, faster decision making. It offers faster decision making. Another important thing, more focus on defense, as well as you will see technical cooperation or technological cooperation, tech cooperation. Okay, more focus will be on defense and technological cooperation. So better control over joint exercises as well as security issues also. Now, the question here is why this shift matters actually. So, as you can see here, past conflicts with China or clashes, past clashes with China. Okay, so now what are the past clashes? So, as you can see here, that India has serious conflicts with China with respect to in 2020 here in this region, Galwan clash, okay, Galwan Valley clash, then 2017 Doklam standoff, Doklam standoff because of past clashes. So these events actually pushed India to strengthen the regional partnership. Okay, this is the most important scenario here. So overall, we can say that Prime Minister Modi's visit to Japan is likely to deepen the Indo-Pacific ties as well as Indo-Japan ties in both strategic as well as economic areas. Now, this does not mean that India is leaving the Quad. No, that is wrong. Instead, India is strengthening its Indo-Pacific region and Indo-Pacific policy by building these strong bilateral ties, especially with like-minded nations like Japan. So this is the whole scenario here. Now, तो अब सवाल ये उठता है, बहुत सारे लोगों ने पूछा भी है, is India leaving Quad? No. But is it building something equally powerful alongside it? Absolutely. Okay. So in a world where alliances are becoming unpredictable, so India is actually choosing the strategic depth, not just multilateral forums, but those you can say strategic ties are very strong, flexible bilateral ties with the nations like Japan that share its vision of a free and secure Indo-Pacific region. So we can say that from Galwan to Doklam, India knows that it must be ready. And from Trump tariff to China's rise, the global chessboard is actually shifting fast. This is the whole scenario. And in this new era, the Indo-Japan axis is emerging as a silent powerhouse, grounded not in the noise, but in the strategy, in the speed, and in the trust. So the coming month could actually reveal even more things, like new deals may be there, new doctrines may be there, and possibly a new Indo-Pacific order. So just ask yourself, are we witnessing the birth of a game-changing alliance in Asia? And will this mean for China, for US, and for the future of regional peace? So do not just watch history unfold, decode it with us. So like, comment, as well as subscribe our channel Legacy IAS Academy if you want more breakdowns of India's shifting global strategy. Because let me tell you, geopolitics is not just about the borders, it is about the future you live in. So this is all about the strategy with respect to Indo-Pacific from the perspective of India. Thank you so much.